Hi everyone, my name is CohhCarnage and I am back with another Thoughts video, this time on State of Decay 2. So, State of Decay 2 is a game that I was relatively excited for. I didn't play too much State of Decay 1, but I did kind of enjoy it. I just never really had the time to dive into it. State of Decay 2 is a sandbox zombie survival game. It does have multiplayer elements, but we'll get to that in a little bit. And I've been getting the question a lot lately about what I think about this game and if I think it's worth it. So let me tell you a little bit about my experiences, and then you can make that decision for yourself. So I want to point out first that I played this game single player. And because I played this game single player, there were a lot of rather glaring negatives that I just didn't have to deal with. So understand that's what kept me going for the most part, for the first part of the game. And one of the reasons I've been enjoying it so much. So my experience in this game has been relatively good. I completed one of the maps, which took about 20 hours, and actually started a second playthrough. The game itself has a pretty basic gameplay loop. You have a base. You have to keep the base running while looting more supplies to keep it running. There are also procedural quests that pop up around the map from other NPCs, other factions. You can help them or hurt them as you decide. You can also upgrade and move your base. And honestly, one of the big things that kept me playing this game was the base building mechanic. Not only is every base relatively unique, but then bases can be upgraded, in some cases through multiple levels. There's also a sub-upgrade system where you can then upgrade different base elements to do different things. You can also get some pretty serious upgrades for your team, such as the ability to use more outposts, the ability to heal everyone in your camp, fight the infection better, which is kind of a big element in the game. And yeah. That base component itself, as we kind of set goals through it, really kept me going because there are some rather large bases that require a pretty good amount of work to not only keep supplied, but also to upgrade and everything. And then, of course, the thing that carried me to the end game is the fact that you can elect a leader of your colony of one of 4 classes, and then the entire end part of the game is kind of like doing a custom leader quest line. We picked a sheriff in our first map, and at the end of our quest line, small spoiler alert, we had to like protect our town in a bunch of sheriffy ways before it ended. So the takeaway from me that I want to give to people is if you approach this game as a zombie sandbox survival game with base building elements, you will probably have a pretty good time. It is relatively bug-free in the single player. There's some animation issues and some other various like little hang-ups and stuff, but they're not too bad. The graphics were pretty good. The dialogue and everything was kind of subpar, but that's mostly because it was procedural in most cases. And I did find the kind of procedural elements of helping the different companions and the different bases to be pretty entertaining. You know, we got some stories about like the rum runners that we helped and the shopkeepers, and we helped some people at a medical area and had a little quest line with them. That stuff's pretty cool. And again, as long as you kind of approach it as a sandbox experience, I think you'll be okay. For a $30 price tag, even at $30, I would say this is kind of a maybe. Because again, if you're not the kind of person that can set your own goals in a sandbox, you're going to find this game pretty repetitive pretty quick. There's only 5 or 6 types of zombies, the hardest elements being these kind of things called plague hearts, which spawn tougher zombies around them and have a lot of HP to destroy. But once you kind of get enough equipment and gear, and once you kind of know what you're doing, and especially once you have characters that have leveled up into specialties, which is a pretty big part of the game, those start to become pretty trivial. And once you know how to deal with them, they become pretty just easy. Also, in beating my first game, not only can you bring 3 survivors into your next game, but you also get some pretty big perks, which then make your next game even easier. And I have not yet detected any type of difficulty upgrade to make that more rewarding. Now, if you move through the maps and they get more difficult, which they might, and maybe we just haven't seen that yet, that could be awesome. But again, I haven't yet seen a more difficult oriented mechanic in play yet, and that kind of is going to be pretty big. Considering my first run was arguably easy, I don't really need a bunch of bonuses for my second run. So if they implement something like that, the longevity factor could be a lot more, but I don't super see a lot of reasons to continue clearing maps after you've kind of beaten the first one, unless you specifically want to see more classes or want to get those big bonuses so you're just walking over zombies, essentially. So before we go, I do also want to address kind of an elephant in the room with this game. This game has something called co-op. However, I would be very hesitant to call it as such. Co-op generally means people on the same level working towards one common goal. That's not what State of Decay is. State of Decay is one person with their base, and if you join them, you can help them with their base. There are also some mechanics in the multiplayer that some people are just going to straight up not like. Like, for instance, the host of the game, the guy running the base and running the game, has a radius around him that the other players cannot go out of. I have heard it's a large radius, though, so that's not too big of a deal. Also, whenever you enter a house, in single player, you enter a house, and you can just loot everything. You loot the whole house, and you move on to the next house. Great, awesome, perfect. When you enter a game in multiplayer, it assigns the loot points to different people in the map. So, for instance, I had another streamer tell me that they would frequently enter a house, and then all of the loot in the house would be assigned to people that weren't him. So he would be the only person in the house, and he wouldn't be able to loot anything. Another big issue is that there are straight up bugs in multiplayer. There are desync issues. If the base person builds something, the other people don't see it. If you do get desynced, you can then get kicked out of your game and then have to wait, in some cases, like 5+ minutes to get back in due to however they do the joining stuff, which has to be done, by the way, through the Xbox application on a PC. It's not just, let's easily join on friends. It's, let's use the Xbox app, and the Xbox app has its own can of worms that you have to deal with as well, if it's even working for you. So the multiplayer in this game, although has worked pretty well for some people, has worked not so well for others. So I will say that if you're looking at this game, you're definitely going to need to keep that in mind when wanting to play multiplayer. The final thing that I'll talk about this game real quick is the price. I think that if you're going to play this as a single player adventure game and you're okay with the sandbox zombie elements, this game is probably going to be worth $30 to you. However, it's important to mention that if you are watching this video, hopefully this deal is still available, and for the record, this may not be available depending on when you watch this video, but at the time, Microsoft is doing something called the Game Pass, where you can spend $10 a month and get access to a bunch of games for that month. This is one of those games. So if this is the kind of thing where you think you might play this game for a month, well, you theoretically could get the Game Pass, play this game for a few weeks, play a few more games for the next 2 weeks, and then cancel your subscription and get that money back. Finally, it's important to mention that right now there is a 2-week free trial of Game Pass that someone in chat earlier confirmed that you can cancel and not have to pay anything. So theoretically, you could sign up for that, play this game for a couple weeks for free, and then maybe not pay anything and cancel that. So I'm just telling you this, guys, out of full disclosure, so you guys know where to get this stuff. And again, if you're watching this down the road, these deals may not be available. I'm sorry about that if so. But again, I do want to stress that if you approach this game as a single-player sandbox adventure like I did, I got my $30 out of it. I've played this game over 20 hours, and, you know, I've relatively enjoyed what I've done. It's been a pretty chill experience. It's been a fun streaming game where I can kind of just talk to chat and kind of autopilot a lot of times. And, yeah, it's been pretty enjoyable for what it is. So those are my thoughts on State of Decay 2. I hope this video helped you. Of course, if you have any more questions, feel free to drop by the channel. I'm always willing to answer them. And we will see you next Thoughts video. Thank you.